On this podcast, I talk a lot about health and wellness, a lot about meditation, a lot about spirituality. And one of the things that I feel like I'm not committing to as much as I should is breathwork.
Yeah.
Is breathwork. So I thought that our conversation would be not only beneficial to my audience, but beneficial to me as well. I want to thank you again for hopping on the podcast today.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here and love sharing about breathing. It's definitely changed and transformed my life in many, many ways. And, it's just one of those things, like you said, it's easy to forget about, but it's happening all the time. So
right.
It's something that everyone can connect to. And it's one of those things too, that can add a lot to your life as far as health, wellness, mindset, all of the parts, it all works together. So it's pretty awesome.
Just a little intentionality, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Can you imagine all the people that go their whole life without connecting to their breath one time?
I would say probably a majority of the people are in that category, and that's where it becomes a skill and a tool, is when you begin to practice and understand it, then you just start noticing it more. That's always my goal when working with anyone. It's not to like make you some sort of superhuman breather. It's like, no, the moment you notice your breath, then that's an opportunity for you to change directions, to be more in touch with your body and how you're feeling and all of these things. So it's just something that also builds over time. It's like when you're confronted with something and you've got a relationship with your breath, that's the first thing you're going to notice. We talk about breath being a behavior. And so every behavior that we have or do has a breathing pattern or way of showing up. Like, think about when you get scared, it's like there's a breath like that. Or you get home at night after a long day and you're like so it's like once you start paying attention to these things, then you really see like this is a part of everything that we do,
right?
And it's the first thing we do when we come into the world, and it's the last thing we do when we leave. And we take 600 million to 1 billion breaths in our lifetime. I mean, you've got this breath bank that we're basically just taking money out of the bank every single breath that we take. And so if we can be super intentional, like you said, with it, then we can self-direct in a lot of different ways. So,
wow, well said. I love that analogy. Over the last 30 seconds of you talking, I've been super present, but I've also connected to my breath twice. And on each time of me connecting to my breath over the last minute now, I instantly felt lighter. I instantly felt more calm. I instantly felt more peace. And I instantly felt less stress. I have a lot going on in this head, and I'm sure you do as well. You got a lot of projects we're working on. And I'm finishing up writing my book. Had a meeting with my editor this morning, and it didn't go as well as I planned. So I'm feeling a little stressed, on edge a little bit, but just connecting to my breath was so beneficial. And I just want to say one thing before we get too deep into this. I want to take a step back and just introduce you a little bit to all the people that are listening on Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Reis is a surfer. He's a serial entrepreneur, found himself in a way to maintain life through balance. And you started this journey with a deep exploration into the Wim Hof method. You took 2 trips to Poland where you summited frozen mountains in sub-zero temperatures wearing only shorts. And that's where you learned to love yourself again. You realized it was just the tip of the iceberg. No pun intended, right? No pun intended. Right. But tell us a little bit about your journey from the beginning and what you learned in that retreat or expedition you did with Wim Hof in Poland and things like that. I'm super interested in what's going on. So just to tell the audience a little bit about your credibility and how you started this journey into breathwork.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the intro, and it's great to be here with your audience. Thank you. Really, my journey started I don't know, about 7 years ago, I owned a digital marketing agency. I had started an organic sunscreen brand. I've got 2 kids. And so, like, all the responsibilities adding up took me away from doing the things that I love to connect with, being out in nature, surfing, um, really just moving my body and just feeling stagnant, and was looking for something and just to connect with, and heard Wim on a podcast and was like, this guy's got some mojo that I want a piece of, and ended up doing his online course. It was a 10-week course. I did it in 10 days and was just like, okay, I want more. I went to a workshop in LA with one of his instructors, and that kind of gave me a little bit better of a foundation. And next thing I knew, I signed up for one of the expeditions to Poland. And I always say, like, the cold is not something I've ever connected to. I'm the I'm the surfer living in San Diego wearing my full suit in the summertime. Like, cold and me don't mix. But
Great.
for whatever reason, I was just like, all right, let's go for it. And it's funny because in the very first ice bath that I actually ever did at that workshop in LA, the instructor said, "Wow, like, this guy's really looking for something. He's here for something." And that kind of just like clicked for me. I was like, "Yeah, I am. Like, I need something in my life that's going to bring me up to be able to deal with all of the things that are going on." So went to Poland, doing deep breathing in this dark room, and then doing lake dips or river dips. There's like a river that kind of runs through the little zone there. And then we did 2 mountain climbs. One of them is a little bit more mellow, but then sort of the peak experience. If you've ever seen the Vice documentary with Wim, they're climbing Mount Schnetzka. It's, the tallest mountain on the Czech border, and it was minus 20 degrees Celsius, doing it in your shorts. And, you know, that accomplishment for myself and really all of it was just like, wow, I have so much more possibility of what I can actually do that I'm totally shut off to. We have all these limiting beliefs that we're told throughout our whole life, like, go outside, put your shoes on, put your sweatshirt on, you're going to get sick. And here we are, in literally shorts, nothing else, a beanie and a backpack, and climbing, super strong winds hitting you in the face. It's interesting because it's like one side of the mountain is a ski resort, and a lot of people take the lift up and like hang out at the top, and then you do this last like bit up to the peak, and it's just like chaos, like people everywhere. And there's 30 people in their shorts, and everyone wants to like take a picture with you. And so it's just like this level of focus. And so yeah, I mean, within all of that, like I said, or like you said, I kind of learned to love myself again. I was
Yeah.
just appreciating my body and what I'm capable of. And also through breathing, really got into um, just reacquainting myself with my body and my emotions and all of these
Mm.
things. And then from there, really just kind of dove into all things breathing. I think Wim Hof is great. He's obviously a character, and he's bringing a lot of people into this community. But I just felt like there was more.
Yeah.
I always say the Wim Hof method is sort of like the gateway drug to breathing.
Right.
It's simple. There's a protocol. It's high impact, low effort. And then once you have that experience, you're kind of like, okay, what else is there? And so really got into experiencing as many of the different like breathing protocols and methods and all of
Sure.
that, and now have kind of really focused on what are the fundamental baseline principles of breathing that connect all of these different methods, and then how do we use those to deepen our personal relationship with the breath so that we can use it in real time as a tool to self-regulate, to increase energy, relax, focus, all of those things. And so I really call it more of a multidisciplinary approach,
Okay.
looking at all the little pieces and then how that fits together to work with an individual, because something that works for me might impact you a bit differently. And so once you can kind of like understand some of these basic principles, then you can really experiment with it, get curious with it, and then it just kind of starts to show up as this opportunity to really control and direct your life,
Right.
more or
Well
less. I
said.
mean,
Amazing.
yeah.
And I think it's true. It can be said about a lot of things, and I think maybe not a lot of things, a short list of things, but breath work and meditation is the type of thing that if everyone would just do a little bit of meditation, if everyone would just do a little bit of breath work, there wouldn't be world wars. There wouldn't
Yeah.
be anxiety and depression. I mean, so this is the type of thing that I believe in, and even though I don't intentionally set aside time to focus on breath work per se, my 20-minute meditation in the morning is focused on connecting to my breath. And
Yeah.
just like I'm in the beginning of my journey, I can't say anything about your journey because I don't have the context, but I can tell you have a beginner's mindset, and I can tell that you are going to continuously get better and connect your breath more and more every day. And that's the type of mindset that we should all have, regardless if we are 22 starting a business, or a 7-figure entrepreneur, making a big impact. And I also noticed that you do breathing assessments, one-on-one breathwork coaching. You can take people through the Wim Hof method as a level 2 certified Wim Hof instructor. And then you provide group sessions. And these are things that I'm really interested in. During a one-on-one session, what are some of the things that you're looking for, or what are some of the things that you are trying to guide your client through to help
Yeah.
them get better at? And if you could explain this as simple as possible, what are you looking for when working with a new client?
That's a great question. And really, for me, when I first walk in the door of working with someone, I'm just watching them breathe. Because if the second the second you put your mind on your breath, you inherently change it. There's no, it's a skill to build, obviously, breath awareness and just observing your breath. But for most people, the second you talk about it, they start changing it. So I'm watching someone, okay, how's the breath showing up? And then really normally for the at least first session, if not the first few sessions, I'm focusing strictly on mechanics, because throughout our life, through trauma and just life circumstances and things that we're doing, we move away from proper breathing mechanics. So if we can restore breathing function, there is the possibility that a lot of the problems that we're having will go away or be greatly reduced. So, is a person breathing through their nose, or are they breathing through their mouth? That's like number one. We need to shift to nasal breathing at rest, and through most of life, we should be breathing through our
Yeah.
nose. It's, if you look at like a side cut of your face, your mouth is a straight shot, right? And if you look at your nose, it's about the size of your fist, your entire nasal passage. So you've got hair, you've got a mucous membrane, you've got all these turbinates and everything in your nose that's filtering the air, it's conditioning the air, it's changing the temperature of the air so that it can be taken into the lungs. Um, so the primary function of our nose is for breathing, and our mouth primary function is talking and eating, right? It's a straight shot. We don't get all of that filtration. We don't get all of that, um, all the good things that the nose is providing us. So that's number one. And then I'm looking at location of the body. How are they breathing? Are they breathing up high in their chest? That's a sign of stress, more of a sympathetic, or, that fight flight as we know it, type of breathing. Or are they breathing down in their belly, which is typically not the case.
Right.
Life is fast. We've got a lot of things going on and we're just go, go, go. And so a lot of people are breathing up here. Also, looking at, are they breathing like in this more horizontal fashion where our lungs are 360 degrees, like they're the front, the sides, the back. So if we can build a breath that's engaged all the way around this whole cylinder, then we're actually going to get more activation of the primary breathing muscles, which are our diaphragm and our intercostals. We get out of breathing up in our neck, these auxiliary muscles, all of this. We don't want this action, our shoulders raising and our neck tensing up, to be in our breath movement. So those are kind of just
Okay.
some basic things that I'm looking at. And then I've got a bunch of exercises to connect people into, you know, getting in touch with those different
Sure.
parts of their body and then building that up. So, you know, over time we restore breathing mechanics. And then from there, we start working on other
Absolutely.
protocols. And
When it comes to
yeah,
restoring breathwork mechanics, this is, and what you are accomplishing with your clients is to help them breathe better throughout the day. So this is more of like, hey, you're breathing wrong while you're living your life. Let's change the way you breathe, and not as much of like sit here for 10 minutes, do a chant, and let's like breathe for the next 10 minutes. So it's more of just like everyday life. This is how you should be breathing. And I got a lot of little seeds that you planted in my head, because as you were talking, obviously I was being aware of how I breathe. And I've read books about how nasal breathing is obviously the way we should be breathing. And when I'm training for Ironman and I do my 7 mile run on Sunday, I only breathe through my nose the whole time. And I try to only breathe through my nose when I'm living. But this is my question: breathing is an involuntary thing, right? So at what point do we have to double down on the voluntary work or practice of our breath? Meaning, like, how do we go from involuntary to voluntary breathing?
that's a great question. And I love that. And that's really the basis of a lot of what I do is practice, right? Anything we practice, we inherently get better at so that then we don't have to think about it. So, you know, kind of going back to what you were originally talking about is like these short little hits. We don't need to do necessarily an hour long blast off to outer space breathing session. Yeah, that's great. And it's a nice reset for a lot of things and it feels awesome. But really, what we're focused on, my company, Our Breath Collective, is creating short intervals of breath practice, from working on mechanics to integrating different patterns of breath. So it's sort of like flossing your teeth, right? It's this maintenance, it's this titration, a little bit at a time over a long period of time. We start to then build better mechanics. We increase the relationship to our breath, the awareness, all the parts of it. So really, it just comes down to practice. Same with like doing yoga, right? You at first you go to yoga, you're not super flexible, you can't really hold the poses, you don't really know what you're doing, but then over time you keep going, you keep showing up through the consistency, and then boom, next thing you know, you've got like Killer Warrior 2 and all the things, and your body opens up in new ways, and then it's sort of like a cascade effect, right? Once one domino falls, then boom, it just starts adding up, and then next thing you know, you don't even have to think about it and you're breathing better. So that's kind of the approach. Like, we lead 15-minute breathing sessions every day. They're live, or you can watch them on demand whenever you need them. So it's just like these little hits. Everyone's got 15 minutes, right? Like, you know, put your phone down for 15 minutes and just connect into your breath. And then you're going to feel that much better, and be able to handle all the things of life that are coming at you at, you know, a million miles an
Amazing.
hour.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's about just consistent practice. You don't have to be
Yep.
intentional and connect to your breath for 4 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. No, just connect to your breath for 45 seconds every hour, or 45 seconds every 10
Totally.
minutes. Like, it's
Yeah.
repetition. It isn't so much how many days in a row, but how many times can you do it as quickly as possible. And
Yep.
obviously, breath work and meditation have a lot of common themes. They have a ton of things in common, and not only spiritually and for mental health, but physiologically and biologically for physical health,
Yep.
right? I mean, when we're
Yeah.
connecting to our breath, I'm sure there's a physiological change that's going on in our body. Is there anything you can speak on about the science of breath work?
Yeah. I mean, it's really connected to all the systems in our body. You know, our biochemistry is changing as we breathe. You know, this relationship between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Most people think it's all about oxygen, but the more we're learning, it's really about CO2, because in order for oxygen to get offloaded into our body, we actually need to have CO2 present. And thinking about most people and how they're breathing, most people are over breathing, meaning they're breathing more than they actually should. So we're dumping CO2. So we've got this oxygen because we're breathing a lot flowing through our body, but it actually is not even getting released because there's not enough CO2 to trigger, that response to happen in our body. Our nervous system is directly related to breathing. So breathing is really the remote control for our nervous system. So we can breathe in a certain way and ramp ourselves up, or we can breathe in another way and bring ourselves down. I mean, it's much more complex and dynamic than that, but just keeping it very simple. In addition to that, our circulatory system, as we're breathing, we're getting vasoconstriction, vasodilation. So we're pumping our vasculature, strengthening that. Our immune system is connected to it. Breathing through your nose, like I said, is filtration. It's antiviral. Um, you know, Mechanically, our biomechanics. So all the parts are connected to it. That's why it's so powerful and so impactful, is that you're really connecting into every system in the body simply by breathing. So, it's really, it seems so simple. Like you think about your breath, like breathing. Yeah. Like you said, it's involuntary, but then we do have that volitional control over it, which makes it that much more powerful and dynamic.
And the thing about breath work here, guys, it's free. Right, this is free. There's no hidden agenda here. It's, hey, if you just connect to your breath more, focus on your breath, change the mechanics of the way you breathe, whether it's less horizontal, more horizontal, more the nose, less the mouth, more in the diaphragm, less in the upper body. This is going to help you mentally and physically. This is free, guys. It's free. There's no. It just definitely makes sense. Reis, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on the podcast today. To all the people that are listening on Apple and Spotify, go ahead and follow Reis on Instagram at Reis Paluso. That's REISPALUSO. You can go check out Our Breath Collective as well on Instagram. OURBREATH Collective. All the people that are watching on YouTube, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, drop a comment. I'm going to post all of Reis's handles and his website to his company below. You can click those, connect with Reis, shoot Reis a message, ask some questions about breathwork. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. Reis, thank you so much for your time today. It was nothing short of a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here. And yeah, we've got a ton of resources on our website on ourbreathcollective.com. People can get some free breathing sessions. If you want to dive in and really build some consistency, we've got, a membership that you can connect with our live practices. And then we share a ton of resources on our Instagram. That's kind of our main little hub there. So people looking for information or just how, some more insights and perspective, we've got a lot there. So yeah, Zach, thank you so much. Appreciate your audience for listening. It's great to be here. And any support that I can give anyone, that's what I'm all about. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Reis, thank you so much, man. We'll be connecting soon.